This is Catherine Isabel, and you're listening to the Knife Party podcast. I hope you enjoy it, because I don't.
Groovy. Hello. Welcome to another edition of the Knife Party podcast. We live all on the cutting room floor. I'm, of course, your illustrious host, Zach Evergreen. And I'm finally in my brand new studio that you guys helped me build. The cutting room floor, it is finished. I have a nice plant over here. I have some really awesome speakers. I have an on-air sign. I have a bunch of soundproofing equipment in a white room with black curtains. And it's all thanks to you. Thank you so much, guys. 4 years running and over almost 20 years podcasting. And I finally got my first paycheck. And finally, I have a nice little studio to call my own. So I thank you so much. And it couldn't have happened without you. And that's at the patreon.com/knifepartypod is where you go. And that's where you get all your shows ad-free. I was going to say early and often, but no, I actually release all the shows as I record them now. So I record this right now at 11:09 p.m. on 6/16/2026, and it will be released today. However, they'll be ad-free on the Patreon. But not only do you get that, on my free feed, I have about 200 and something reviews, and on the Patreon, I have 500 something podcasts, because I also do Slime Wreck Radio. I'm actually bringing back Midnight Ramen, my video game review. I also have... Oh, and by the way, if you don't know what Slime Wreck Radio is, hold on to your butts and do not call HR, because that's basically what the show is. And also I do Knife Party After Dark. That's when sometimes I will just randomly show up on other people's feeds, X feeds, and try to take over their show. Sometimes it works out for the best. Sometimes I look like an idiot. Either way, it's usually funny. But if you want random entertainment, there you go. Not only do we have our $5 a month thing, if you say are afraid of a commitment, you could just buy full on seasons. And our seasons are very, very inexpensive. In fact, I'm going to go look right now because I want to say they're $20, but I could be wrong. Let's see. If you go to Knife Party Pod on Patreon and you go to our seasons, let's see. Our seasons are $20 each, and that averages you anywhere from 49 episodes to 88 episodes. So there is a lot of stuff there. So yeah, if you're afraid of commitment and you want to contribute, throw me $20 and download every season. There you go. It's pretty cool. We are going to have some merch up pretty soon and everything else. And also, I answer every and all emails at knifepartypod@yahoo.com because I keep it old school. The best thing you want to do is actually get on the Twitter or on the X, as the kids call it nowadays. Follow me, Father Heel, and Heel spelled like your foot, Heel. And that way, you can be on the show that we're starting right now. And today we are talking LA Confidential. 1997 was a crazy year for movies because it was kind of like the last bastion of the really 90s movies. I think the last great 90s movie. It was also a detective movie, but that would be Dark City, and that was 1998. If you ever ask me, like, hey, what do you think the best years were for movies? I can almost nail it, and I think it's 1986 to 1996, because that's when most of the... Now, there's some outliers there, obviously. You know, we had some good 1984 movies. We had some 1982 movies. I just rewatched Cobra with my dad for the first time. He's never seen it. And I'm like, you've never seen Cobra? This movie's awesome. This is better than Rambo. But anyway, the funny thing about LA Confidential is I remember it being advertised very heavily on wrestling, believe it or not. I was watching WWE or WWF at the time. And I remember this movie would come up all the time, and it was kind of like oversharing, where the trailer, the commercial trailer, was 90 seconds long, and they almost gave out too much of the movie. But I was very, very wrong. I actually didn't see this movie till, I want to say 99 or 2000. I want to say 99. And I remember seeing on Turner Classic Movies, and I was like, wow, this movie's really good. I wish I would have seen it in theaters. And now, of course, I own the special edition and everything else. And this is one of those movies, I've seen it probably a dozen times, from start to finish. And I will tell you that it is one of those movies where the more you watch it, the better it is. It is. The only thing I can say about this movie is it actually makes you feel like a detective in a way. Because when you see it your first time, there's so many side plots. And I know they're all going to this main plot. But when I first saw it, when I was, I'd be a teenager when I first saw this. I was like 17 or 18. Now, as a grown 40-year-old adult, or 43 actually, I watch it now, and then there's even things I've seen recently that I'm like, how did I miss that? But there's so much information. This is one of those movies, even though it's almost a 3-hour movie. I'm actually going to go and give you its stats in a second. It doesn't feel like it, because it feels like there's 3 movies in one, because there kind of is, because there's 3 plots going on at the same time, and they all kind of converge on one plot. And that's what's brilliant about this movie. The only movie recently that tries to do anything like this, and it's funny too, because it does have LA in the title, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Is almost 2 movies at the same time. And there's 2 plot lines going on, and they do kind of all converge at the end. And that makes it very, very awesome. By the way, if any listeners want to join in, I have one right now. If you want to join in, and if you have any comments or whatever, just raise your hand and I will call you in. Just remember that we can't say any bad words until the 20-minute mark, and we are at 7 minutes. So, be on your best behavior. This has got a 99% on the Rotten Tomato scale, which is pretty crazy. And it's got a 94 with the popcorn meter. I definitely do agree with this, because I would give this a 97. There is only one scene that throws me from this movie, and I'll get to that. But besides that, it's a near perfect movie. The filming, the cinematography, the costumes, everything is very, very great. So who's in this picture? Well, let's see. We got the director, which is Curtis Henson, Kevin Spacey. Now, I say what you want about Kevin Spacey. I know he's got a lot of heat right now, but he is a great actor, and I love him in this movie. And I think this might be his best. I know a lot of people say American Beauty is his best work. I don't think so. I think this movie is way better than American Beauty. And after that, I would say 7 is his best movie, because 7 is fantastic, and he plays the best version of like a Zodiac type killer person. And Kevin Spacey's always been, and also I love him in House of Cards, but in this movie as Jack Vincent, he really kills it. No pun intended. Russell Crowe's in this. Again, this might be Russell Crowe's best movie. I know everyone loves Gladiator. I love it too. It's great. But Russell Crowe as Bud White is just he's a character in himself, and it's really great. And we're going to talk about that. And then we have Guy Pearce, not his best movie. And the only reason why is because there was a little thing called Memento that came out, and Memento is one of my favorite movies of all time. However, he is great in this movie. And I'm going to talk about the making of it and why these characters are so important, because the studio did not want these 3 characters. And anyway, we also have James Cromwell as Captain Dudley, and we have David Stranson as Pierce, who kind of is a Frank Zappa lookalike. And but anyway, this is a full stocked movie. And I always like doing this because I am paid by Rotten Tomatoes. I am, an official rater by them, and that's kind of, I'm not, my paychecks don't say Rotten Tomatoes, but you know what I mean? Like, I use them, they use me. It's all good. Some more movies like this. Heat. I agree. Q&A. Do not agree. One Tough Cop. Do not agree. 2 Days in the Valley. Definitely agree. And also, 2 Days in the Valley is one of the most underrated movies ever. I think the only reason why people don't like it is because it seems like it should be a Tarantino film, and it feels like a Tarantino film, but it's not. But 2 Days in the Valley is a fantastic movie. If you guys never seen that, you should definitely go check it out. Okay, now time for some of my notes. So I actually went on my special edition to get some of these notes, and I think you may or may not maybe you don't own this. Maybe a lot of people stream. So anyway, this is actually based off a novel by James Ellroy, Ellroy. And the novel is, of course, just like any other movie, it is very different from the movie the novel is. However, the original script that this movie was supposed to be, it was an amalgamation of characters. So meaning the studio did not want Jack Van Zandt, Ed Eggleston, and Bud White as separate characters. They wanted an amalgamation. They wanted to kind of streamline it up and make this a good 90-minute movie, like a good just LA cop noir movie. And the director was like, no. And the writer of the novel was like, hell no, you can't. That's why are you gonna even call it LA? Why are you gonna call it LA Confidential? Why don't you just write your own stupid movie? This movie's set in 1954, and Warner Brothers is actually the office, but they wanted to focus just on Bud White. They wanted Bud White's character to be the main character, and they wanted it to be very much more noir. So. And the director and the writer were like, no, we're not going to do that. It is a 3-man story. It is 3 story arcs going on into one, and that's why it's so good. Do you want an hour-and-a-half long dragnet show, or do you actually want a groundbreaking movie? And I remember when this came out, people, especially movie buffs, were saying this is going to change the movie industry. Now, unfortunately, it didn't, because this movie, even though it had everything going for it, it had all the sizzle and all the steak, a lot of people weren't hungry that year, I guess, because it didn't do as well as it should have. I remember a lot of people were, especially film nerds, cinephiles and everything else. I'm going to turn my mic down just a little bit. They were saying that this is like the next big thing, and this is going to change cinema. It didn't, unfortunately. I wish it did, because I don't think a movie like this came out. Dark City did definitely come out and do a lot of cool things like what this movie does in the new noir genre, and also in a period piece. The cool thing about this, though, is that this was not considered a noir piece. I'll get back to that in a second, but they took a risk. The director actually picked 2 Australians for the leads, and at the time, Russell Crowe wasn't the Russell Crowe we know of today. He wasn't, making music, drinking beers, and fighting around the world. This was Russell Crowe at a very early time, and so was Guy Pearce. Even Memento came out after this, and it was an amazing movie. Guy Pearce wasn't that known until The Prestige, I think, is actually what put him on the map. But I knew who Guy Pearce was, and I knew who Russell Crowe was, and I think that this might be Russell Crowe's best movie. It's hard to argue. I know I love Ridley Scott and I love Gladiator, and I know it's cheesy to say that Gladiator is an awesome movie, but it is an awesome movie. We could just go ahead and agree that, yes, it is a popcorn flick. However, Russell Crowe's amazing in it. And by the way, as is the heel in it, his name escapes me, Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic in it. And he's the reason why I say vexed. Yes, it vexed me. It vexed me very much. Anyway, Kim Basinger actually passed on this movie. She didn't want to do it. She was touching 50, and she's like, why am I going to play a 50-year-old prostitute that looks like, Veronica Lake? And she just had her kids, or just had a kid right before this movie came out. And I don't know if you know, in this movie, here's another fun fact, and it's a reason, actually, this will give you an excuse to stare at her chest, is she was lactating during this movie. So if you notice that her nipples are like more supple than normal, that's because she was lactating constantly. And so they had to put the little covers on her boobs. But anyway, one of the reasons she said yes to it is she loved the script, but also she saw the costumes that she was going to get to wear, and she couldn't say no. The costume department in this movie are amazing. I mean, second to none. I still say Dune is my favorite costume department. But this movie, the costumes are amazing, especially Kim Basinger. It seems like in every scene she's wearing something super elegant, flowing, and you know, everything that it seems like cut for her. And then I love the costumes in this movie as well. On the downside, like when you see Bud Light, he's wearing a bunch of a bunch of costumes that look like he's pouring out of. Like he's a poor choice about buying clothes, because he's wearing just, you know, wife beater tank tops and then like a clear white shirt over it, and the collar is not matching. Like it looks like he's bursting out of it, you know, like he bought these clothes like 4 years ago and he's gained weight and blah blah blah, and it just looks right for him. And same thing goes with all the characters. Like, I mean, when you see Kevin Spacey's wardrobe in this, it's amazing. Like, you could tell he wants to be more of a Hollywood actor than he does a cop, because he's wearing these incredible white jackets that are shag on top of black silk shirts with a white and black belt with black slacks and nice, you know, and his spectacles, his eyewear are amazing. And you could just tell he's the Hollywood cop and he doesn't even want to be there. And, you know, there's that great scene where when Guy Pearce asks him, he's like, why did you want to be? And he goes, I don't even remember anymore. And it's like, clearly you don't want to be a cop. You want to be a movie star. Anyway, moving on. So all of the sets in this movie were actually real. So in California, if you've never been, we had this Art Deco movement in the 30s. Now, if you go to where I live in the North Bay area in Vallejo, California, we still have a lot of Victorian houses and we still have a lot of Art Deco houses. Now, due to the fact that California has the weirdest and most stringent laws when it comes to construction, it is much cheaper to actually keep a building and just redo it than bulldoze and start over. And so luckily, even though these laws are absolute foobar and we shouldn't have them, it actually did help out with the making of this movie, because they actually set out people to go, set designers. They sent them out and said, hey, find us some old buildings, buildings that would look like 1953. And they found all these cool Art Deco buildings, these apartment complexes and these diners. And so everything almost you see in this movie is actually more low budget than you would think. They actually found all these, like the Night Owl. That was an actual diner. All they had to do is change his signing. The only thing that was actually built was the Victory Hotel. They actually built the Victory Hotel from scratch, and that's next to the oil fields over there. And the Victory Hotel was actually built from scratch, but that was actually good because they knew they were going to destroy it by the end of the movie. I'll get more into that later. But when you see all the apartment complexes, like during the Night Owl chase scene in the elevator scene, when they escape. The Night Owl itself, of course, of the rape victim at Sugar Ray's place. All these places, they were actually not sets. Oh, of course, I forget the mother's house when they actually find Buzz Meeks underneath the crawl space. All these houses were actually, they weren't sets. They were actual real buildings, and they just said, cool. So they actually went out and scouted because if you think about this movie, it doesn't really take place in that many locations. You have the precinct, which most things are filmed at. You have Veronica Lake's, in quotes, apartment. You know, of course, you have the pimp's apartment. Oh, his name escapes me. God darn it. Anyway, but he's got that nice Art Deco 30 place. And then we have the Night Owl and a couple of our suspects' house. So and then of course the interrogation room, and which counts as a precinct. So really, this movie only takes place in probably about 6 or 7 scenes. If you want to throw in the DA's office at the very end, but that could have very well been in the same as the precinct. So anyway, yeah, but they were all legit. Basically, the only set that was actually made for this was Veronica Lake's apartment, which it was a real building, but when she brings Bud Light upstairs and shows the real her, and then, with the Bixby, Arizona, and then you get to see kind of like her trinkets from her past and everything else like that. That actually was made up differently. And I don't know if it was the same state or same building. That could have been a soundstage. It probably was. And I think her front door was as well, but I'm not really sure about that, because I think her front door and the Christmas front door in the beginning of the movie are the same, and they're just filmed from different angles. I hate breaking movie making for people, because sometimes, you ruin the magic trick when you show people how it's done. But anyway, the cars in this movie were really, really hard to come by. They got a lot of collectors, and there is a lot of, and especially in California, but probably in LA. I don't know. I don't go to LA too often. I've only been there a few times. I hate it. It's too hot and too much pretentiousness. But I do know that there's a lot of California clubs, and they will meet up on Sundays and stuff and show off their rides. I would not be surprised if that's where they got use of their cars. I know that my grandfather on my mom's side used to collect old 57, 56, and 54 Chevys and kind of build them, replace them. And I know his were used in a couple of movies, and he never got anything out of it except for to go, hey, I'm in that movie, and he was really proud of it. So probably where they got a lot of the cars in here. The cool thing is they didn't use a lot of permits. They actually picked out a bunch of streets in LA that weren't busy, because they wanted to make you think that LA was lonely and kind of empty. They didn't want it a crowded LA. They didn't want it to look like Terminator 2, obviously. Okay. Anyway, they had a very, very huge deadline, because they wanted to debut this, believe it or not, at Cannes Film Festival, and they did, and they won, and they weren't even sure what was going to happen. The actors, in fact, never even saw the final cut until Cannes Film Festival, and they all went as a crew, and they loved it, and they were surprised about how fast they got this movie done, because this was done at a very, very, very accelerated pace. Apparently, the shooting didn't take that long, but the preparation for this movie took way, way longer. Anyway, Rollo Tomassi, one of my favorite characters in the book, and he's not even really a character, but the Rollo Tomassi story was not in the novel. It was a last-minute addition to kind of speed things along. So when Jack Van Zant gets killed by Dudley, and he just whispers Rollo Tomassi, and then the next day when you see the sergeant, lieutenant sergeant, and he's like, hey, we're trying to catch up on this lead by Vincent. Rollo Tomassi, does it mean anything to you? And he's like, no, not at all. But then we just heard this whole story about why he wants to do the right thing is because his dad, who was, made lieutenant 3 years later than he was, and he was off duty, and he was killed by like a pickpocket thief, and he got away clean, and he wanted to give the villain a name, so he gave him the name Rollo Tomassi. So anyway, that was totally left out of the book. Or no, sorry, the book obviously came first. It wasn't even in the book, but I'm glad they actually did, in fact, put it in the movie, because it is one of those little things in this movie that I love. Vincent, in the book, here's a little different. So in the movie, Jack Vincent, Big V, as Danny DeVito calls him, is this cinephile, hopeless romantic where he really wants to be on Dragnet, which is basically Badge of Honor. And I mean, he only kind of does his job in order to get sidekicks from Danny DeVito's Hush Hush magazine, and B, so he could be a consultant on the show called Badge of Honor, which is basically Dragnet. And but in the book, he's a little bit different, and it actually makes more sense to the plot. And I kind of wish, even though I love Vincent's character in the movie, I really do love Vincent's character. I think he might be my favorite character out of the whole film. But in the book, he's a hophead, and he's also an alcoholic. and he's kind of a more broken dreams. Like he actually came to LA to become an actor and then became a cop because he wasn't good enough looking or too old or over the hill or whatever. And so there's kind of that dynamic. Now, this does add to the whole, because I mean, when you really think about this whole movie, there's, let's see, one, two, okay. There's the $9 murders. Okay. You have that. You have, the whole prostitution thing. That's 2. You have, the girl being raped. 3, that crime. They're all related, by the way. You have, of course, the homicide, as Spacey put it, where the DA is actually, into young actors. That's number 4. And then you have the missing heroine and everyone being killed by Dudley and his men. And they're taking over the mob. And so you have like 5 crimes that are all kind of tied together. Well, I think that maybe in the book, because I've never read it, maybe I should though. If it's on tape and if it's as good as this, I will definitely check it out. But anyway, yeah, apparently Jack Vincent is actually into heroin, and it ties that into the main plot line. Now, I do know the writer of this movie said at first when he read the script that he did not like it because it was nothing like what he wrote. However, he said when he saw the final adaptation, he thought it was, he said he hated to admit it, but he thought it was better. And he thought that his book would not have translated to the silver screen. However, the script did. So he was very, very proud of it, and just proud about like, hey, this was my baby. I wrote it, and it became something totally different, but I'm still proud of what I did. Okay, what other notes do I have? Oh, yeah, in the book. So apparently the book is one of those really weird things where they show the ending of the film before the beginning of the film kind of thing. I know a lot of movies do this. Like, again, we were just talking about Memento. The whole Victory Motel scene, the shootout, is actually the beginning of the story. And here it's at the very end of the story. And I'm glad they didn't do that, because this movie, I'm not going to say this movie's confusing, but like, you really do have to pay attention. This is not a movie you could smoke a joint to and just watch, or drink a couple of bottle of wines to and just watch, or even have somebody who's that one talkative friend. Everyone's got that talkative friend that when you're trying to watch a movie and they're talking through the dialogue and you're like, hey, man, can we play the shut the F up game? I'm actually trying to watch this movie here. This is definitely one of those movies where you kind of have to watch it. I mean, this would have been a perfect in the theater experience, because this is definitely a movie where if it's just dark and your eyes are just on the screen, this is definitely one of those movies. It's not Superman 3 and it's not The Fly Part 2. And, it's definitely one of those movies where it does deserve your attention, or else this is going to be one of those movies we're going to have to rewatch over and over again, like I have. Like I just said, I think this is my 12th time watching it. And every time I watch it, I find something new. And my last rewatching was just last week. But I knew I was going to do a review of this, and unfortunately, no one wanted to review it with me. Everyone's like, it's not my style. It's like, I don't like noir cop movies. And I'm like, yeah, but the plotline is fantastic and the acting is great in this movie. This is not, look, if you're going, and by the way, I'm a sucker for this stuff, and I think it's because I grew up on Batman, the animated series, which is definitely the style of I always like that's why I think I didn't like the Batman movies later on, is they're not detective movies. They're more like action-packed gadget movies, but the original Batman animated series that I grew up on with Kevin Conroy and Joker here, it was all like detective work, and there was action in it and stuff, and it was deserved. I mean, clearly it's a kid's show, but as an adult rewatching it, damn, I mean, the plot lines are pretty good. All right, what else do I got in notes? Hold on. Sip of wine for the working man. Let's see. Oh, another thing. So the whole shootout scene in the beginning of the Victory Hotel. there's a kind of a weird, what would you say? Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's gun is something they say in movie making, where if you show a gun in the beginning, you must use it. It's I don't know if Hitchcock made it or something, but it's just like a trope in movie making. Well, anyway, there is a Chekhov's gun in here, and it's when Dudley is talking to Exley, and he said, "Would you shoot a man in the back that you knew to be guilty?" And he goes, "No, Officer Dudley, or Captain Dudley, you know my answer is no." And he goes, "Well, then, boyo, you should stick to politics and stay out of homicide." The funny thing is, at the end of the movie, he shoots him in the back. And right before, he goes, "Have your badge up so they know you're a cop." And then he shoots him in the back with a shotgun. So it's kind of like in the very first scene, not very first scene, but like in the first 10 minutes in the movie, he basically just says, "Hey, you're going to kill me, and this is how," which is kind of cool. But Dudley in the book, remember I told you that the shootout happens first. He actually lives in the book. He's killed later on. Apparently there is, this is part of a series. I think it's a 3-part series. And he does in fact get killed later by like some serial killer character or something. I don't know. I didn't read it. I'm just letting you know what my notes are telling me. Also, this is actually quite true to the book. The writer said that this is 80% of what he wrote and 20%, which actually is very different normally, because normally when people write a book, you're lucky if you get 55% of the story. And if it's based on a true story, good luck if it's even 50%. I mean, there's so many based off of true stories, and there's like so much, just artistic, what would you call it? Basically, to make a story better, artistic representation. Like, the Doors movie and what really happened, probably 55%. The JFK movie and what really happened, probably only 20%. I know I'm bringing up Oliver Stone here. It's because he really likes to stray from the source material. If you have any doubts, go ask Quentin Tarantino about Natural Born Killers, because apparently the script and the movie are way different. However, that being said, even though I love Quentin Tarantino, I love Natural Born Killers. It's a great movie, especially it is a great movie. And I know, like, it's trying to... Anyway, back to this movie, though. I digress. I know I tend to speak tangentially. Okay, so I kind of went through my favorite notes. We talked about the stats. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite scenes. Favorite scenes of this movie. Oh, my God. And then my least favorite scenes. What I love about this movie, the fact that... Oh, and I like this, too. The director... This had a nickname it even had a nickname before I even knew about it having a nickname. People were calling this LA Noir, and I called it LA Noir when I was 17, 18 when it was coming out. Like I kept forgetting it was called LA Confidential because it just seemed like a noir flick. But the director did not want it to seem like a noir film. So the only person that speaks in the, "Hey, we got the skinny of 2-man triggers," the only person that speaks like that is Hush Hush Magazine with Danny DeVito's character. Everyone else speaks like what they call television English. Like, you can't tell what time they're in. It could be in the 90s when this was filmed. It could be in the 80s. It could be in the 70s. The only thing that you actually notice that makes it a timepiece is the lack of traffic, the weapons they use, the wardrobes. But their speech was definitely not hacky. It wasn't ginned up to be a 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s movie. It was supposed to be a modern movie that just so happened to take place that. So the LA Noir thing really pissed off the director, and it did kind of get that. But Danny DeVito does kind of ham it up a little bit, even though I love his character in this. By the way, can we give a shout out to Danny DeVito? I mean, how good is he as an actor? He's in this, kills it. He's great in Always Sunny, and he might be my second favorite Batman villain. I mean, he was great as the Penguin. Just saying. The guy can act, dude. And also, he's funded so many independent horror movies and projects that, I mean, the guy's a true fan of cinema, and I do give him respect. I think he's like 82, but yeah, I hope he keeps doing good work, even though he always has looked perpetually 55. Like, I don't care. When I first saw him in Twins, I'm like, isn't that guy like 55? And now watching this, I'm like, isn't that guy 55? And then seeing him in Always Sunny, I'm like, oh, he's 55, but he looks older a little bit, but not by much. Maybe he's 57. So he's got what I call their Ric Flair disease, where people don't age. They just always look old. All right. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, my favorite scenes. I really love, one of my favorite scenes is the interrogation scene. And it's when they have the Night Owl suspects who are actually innocent of the Night Owl murders. However, they are guilty of something else. And that is they actually kidnapped and raped a Hispanic woman. The reason why I like this scene so much is this is when Eggleston is first put to the test. And he's like, we'll get a confession out of him, Dudley says. And he goes, no, I'll break him, sir. And he goes in and within 15 minutes has them spilling their beans. But it turns out it's not about the Night Owl killings. It's about one of the 3 men that are arrested as suspects. Actually turns out to be a what they would call a sissy. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Just Google search it. And turns out that Sugar Ray, the leader of this said group, wants him to, quote unquote, lose his cherry, meaning, have sex with a girl. But not in the way that you or I would, like at a bar or that kind of situation. No, they're going to kidnap her and do bad things to her. And there's a great scene where you see Eggleston talking to him, and he's flipping this switch underneath the desk so the other people can hear. And they're getting more and more stressed out. But the best part is Bud White is getting stressed out, and he's grabbed a hold of this chair. And like the more he's talking about it, and they're talking about this girl, his grip gets stronger and stronger, and he breaks the chair, and he comes in right during Eggleston's interview, and he discharges, or not discharges, he empties his revolver, only keeping one, Russian roulette style, and he just starts putting it in his mouth and go, give me a name, give me a name, give me a name. And it's such an intense scene, and it is so great. And then this compensates to, this leads to the great scene where they actually save the girl, where she's tied up to a bed, and you have this guy watching cartoons, eating cereal, Fruit Loops, I believe, and then Bud White just flat out murders him, and then puts a gun and revolver in his hand and shoots through the wall, and then goes, oh, I made it look like justice. I love this scene. Also, another great thing they do with this is camera work. The camera work in the interrogation scene is great because there's a two-way mirror, and we know it's a two-way mirror, but the great thing is you can actually see all the cops kind of like looking in and what's going on, and Eggleston even looking at himself and, taking on and off his glasses and deciding which character he wants to be, good cop or bad cop. It's a great scene in cinema. I love it. The last scene, of course, the shootout is one of the greatest scenes because it starts off so dark. We almost can't see anything. And the way they filmed it, the cinematography is so brilliant because there's so many shots fired in the shootout that each shot illuminates another hole, another bullet hole, allowing light to come in. So when this scene first starts, it's so dark because they're covering up every floorboard and every window with every mattress and everything else they can see. But as the fight continues and continues, there's more and more bullet holes. And even Bud White will go underneath the floorboards and start attacking their ankles and stuff like that. And just the great thing is it's kind of like an analogy for this movie. The more they fight, the more illumination comes into the room. The more bullets fired, the more light is shed on the case. And I really do like that. And I think that was really smart. And I know the cinematographer during one of the interviews did mention that. And I go, wow, that's brilliant. That's great. That's great. I love that. I love that about this. The DA, good cop, bad cop scene. Love that scene when the TA is sitting there and just basically going, who cares if this actor died, whatever, I got a meeting, blah blah blah. And then Exley just looks at Bud White just nods his head, and he goes in and dunks his head in the toilet, and he goes, call him off, and he goes, I don't know how to. And then basically does the whole Rip Van Winkle Suge Knight thing where holds him by his ankles and says, dude, I'm gonna drop you unless you spill something. And then that's when we get our lead about Dudley. Great scene. It's fantastic. Almost every scene with Patchett is great. Patchett is probably one of the best characters. Scenes I don't like, I'm about to get in that in a second. The another great scene in this is just the discovery of the night owl. Like, it's a horror show. It's probably the goriest scene in the movie when we just see, what happens when three people with a shotgun rob a diner, and what shotguns can actually do to the human being. It is a very intense scene. The music, the pacing is really well with it. The music in this movie is fantastic, by the way. The scene, of course, at the end where Exley says just a hero, and they know he's listening from beyond the double window, the doubled mirror. And he's like, you're going to need one. That scene is really great too, when he's kind of doing his final briefing. Love all that stuff. The beginning of this movie, the setup of it, when we have Danny DeVito kind of giving the rundown of what's going on in LA, is a really good setup scene. Does this movie hit a lull? It doesn't, but there are a couple of scenes I don't like, and I'll tell you why. And I think you know where I'm going with this. It's when Exley is meeting up, right? Hold on, let me go back to the cast, because I forgot her character name. With Kim Basinger's character, and she's basically paid to seduce him so they can get blackmail on him for Bud Light. Bud White. I always want to say Bud Light. I meant Bud White. He overacts so bad. He's like, are you gonna fuck me like you do Bud White? Are you gonna? It's so put on that it doesn't need to be in the. It would have been better if he would have just knocked on the door and it cut to Bud White looking at the photos, because it's some bad overacting. It really is. I'm not a fan of it. It takes me out of the movie, and it's not because it's a sex scene or whatever and I'm like a prude. It's just because it really, this movie is so brilliantly acted. It would have been smarter to kind of like have this as another reveal rather than it being spelled out to us. Because the next scene we see him and Bud Light in is Bud Light's trying to kill him because he's, boning his girlfriend. But at the same time, hate that scene. I just think it should have been, this movie's long enough anyway. You could have edited out that scene and just had him knock on the door and just say her name and then cut. And it would have worked perfectly. I think this was a mistake in editing. Another scene that I think could have been cut is, even though it does have a lot of plot line in it, but it's it doesn't need to be there, is when Exley and Bud White, or another Exley and Bud White scene, after they free the Hispanic girl, and Bud White basically just admits to murdering the guy. He goes, it would have looked like justice. I shouldn't have done that. Bud White's supposed to be, a brute, but he's supposed to be a smart brute, like deep down. Never incriminate yourself. Never admit to something like that. Like, he should be like, you weren't there. Why weren't you there? Something like that. Not, oh, it looked like justice. Again, I know it was 1953 is when this movie takes place in, but it doesn't need to be there. You could have done something a little bit more clever and it would have worked. And just don't incriminate yourself. Like, no cop would especially to a guy like Exley, who he knows is a political beast. You would have never incriminated yourself. It just doesn't seem right. So those are the two scenes I don't really like. Besides that, if I were to edit out two scenes or change two scenes, it would be those two scenes. Besides that, this is a near perfect movie. I give it a 98. I think it's really good. Anyway, Computer Graphics is a listener here. What we used to call trolling back in the day. Do you have anything to say about this movie? Do you want to jump in or whatever? Speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm at 45 minutes. It's a little early to end the show, but yeah. Do you have anything to say? You want to jump in on here? Do you have any good scenes or anything else? Are you a fan of this movie? I just got a thumbs up. I don't know what that means, but we'll see. I'll filibuster for a second. The casting direction is amazing in this movie. I don't think it could have been casted better. I mean, Dudley is so good, by the way. I failed to mention him earlier. I did mention him as a character, but having James Cromwell as like that like old Irish, like gumshoe cop as now as, kind of a corrupt cop, it works so well. And he's got some great lines. Like one of them is when he's beating up this gangster from New Jersey and he goes, "This is the city of angels, boyo. And you don't have any wings." it's just a great line. I mean, the script of this movie is fantastic. Now I did hear that the only person that kind of went off script was Spacey, and oh my gosh, I forgot one of my favorite scenes in this movie. It's when it's during when the DEA and the young actor kid, they're going to be at Motel 206. And Kevin Spacey's supposed to bust them at 12 o'clock at midnight. And he orders a drink and he says, "Yeah, I'll see you in a few hours." He says at the end of the video. And he orders another scotch and he's staring at this $50 bill and he just puts it on top of his whiskey glass and just like leaves. And then comes at 11:15 to try to warn him like, "Hey man, get out of here. You don't need to do that." But there's a great scene where he's just staring at the bill and staring at the whiskey and he looks at the bar and the bar's got that mirror and he looks at himself and he's like, "I can't do this." And I don't know. It's just a great scene. The music is perfect. Kevin Spacey's amazing in this movie. I mean, he's almost amazing in everything that I know of. Again, we're not talking about any of his criminal history. We're just talking about movies here. But yeah, that one scene where he just and by the way, this was in the 50s. If you were a bartender and you got tipped $50, that was a huge deal. So, love that. Oh, the whole bloody Christmas thing is great. It's a great way to start off this movie. Where basically it's funny because it's what we used to call telephone back in the day when I was in kindergarten, junior high school, where a rumor starts off here and then it ends up there where so there's these like 6 Mexican dudes and apparently they were like resisting arrest and a couple of cops got a pulled muscle and a black eye and then it turns out that they're on life support and then so all the cops are getting drunk and they're like, "Let's go teach them a lesson," and they just beat they just get in a melee and then the reporters just happen to be there and this is actually how Eggsy comes to power, which is pretty cool. It's a good plot synopsis thing. That's the thing about this movie. The plot just runs so smooth. This is one of those things where you could tell this movie it seemed like it was written backwards. Like it seemed like they knew the ending, which clearly they probably did. Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Computer Graphics said he hasn't seen the movie. Definitely go check it out. I definitely, you got to watch it, especially if you're into capers or cop movies or dramas. It is just one of those things. Here goes another thing about this movie too. The plot is so good, and I say this, that you could actually listen to this movie and it's almost as good as if you're watching it because the dialogue is just so smooth and you can tell what's going on. It's not one of those movies where, if you go to the bathroom and come back and you've never seen it, you're going to miss a bunch of information. But what I mean is that, like, if you were, if you were on a sick day and you had the flu and you were just like laying down, you could throw on this movie and just like, for real, just like kind of half watch it and just listen to it, and you could still get the plot because the dialogue tells you everything that's going on from start to finish. So it is fantastic. Shoot. Well, I don't know. I'm at 50 minutes here, and that's usually where we kind of call it, is about 50 to an hour. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Yeah. LA Confidential. It's a great movie. I give it a 98, 99 on Rotten, and the audience gave it a 94. I only met a couple of people that didn't like this movie. And every time I meet them, everyone in the room goes, "What?" Like last time, it was my guitar player goes, "Oh yeah, I let him borrow it for a year." And I'm like, "Have you seen it yet? Have you seen it?" Like every single year. I was like, or every single week, I was like, "Have you seen it yet?" No. I'm like, "But you like Shawshank. It's like Shawshank. You'll love it. It's a period piece. It's great. It's great. It's great." And then finally he gives it back to me. He goes, "Yeah, I got half an hour into it. It wasn't my speed." And I go, "What is wrong with you?" But then again, I mean, this is coming from his favorite movies are Wrath of Khan and The Wall, which, by the way, aren't bad movies, but neither would I put in my 90% of great movies. So anyway, shout out to Jeff the Tech, who does not make the show all possible. You know who you are if you're listening. Yeah. It's a great movie. Definitely, I recommend not renting this, buy it, because this is one of those movies when you see it, you're gonna want to watch it again the next day because you missed a clue and something. And again, that's why I love this movie. It makes you feel like a detective. Like you actually feel like you're solving the crime as it's going on. And every piece of information goes, "Whoa, wait a minute. So, 2 scenes ago, that one's, it totally stacks up." And then when you finally figure out the ending, and especially at the end of Act 3, because I mean, really, this is a 4-act movie. It's Act 1, 2, and 3. And then there's Act 4, and Act 4 is just like the climax. So it's really a 4-act movie, because Act 1 is kind of the setup. Act 2 is the night owl. Act 3 is the players, and Act 4 is the conclusion. So in a way, it is a 4-act movie. But by the time you get to Act 4, you're either going to be, if it's your first watch, you're going to be confused out of your mind, or you think you're going to have the case solved, and then your girlfriend or your friend is going to tell you, "Hey, you remember that one part where," and then you're going to go, "How did I miss that?" And then you're going to want to rewatch it. And it's just one of those movies. Do not rent this. Definitely own it. It's totally worth a watch. Okay, guys, I'm going to get out of here, and we're going to start Knife Party After Dark. But it was fun talking movies with you guys, and we will see you next week. But if you're a Patreon member, or if you're live on X like you are now, you can go ahead and join me for After Dark. Thank you. Love you. Be kind. Rewind. Have a good one. And of course, you can always email me at knifepartypod@yahoo.com. I take all requests, and we have a good lineup of movies coming up. We've got Clue from the 80s. We've got Cobra from the 80s. We got Blood Diner from the 80s. And then we're going to do our 4th of July special on our favorite war movies of all time. And that's coming up with Kevin Smith from Sons and Shadows podcast. You can check him out at Sons and Shadows. And also 0 Point Reviews. All right, everybody. I've said too much. We are almost at that hour peak. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it off and roll it over to After Dark. Thank you.